Hi guys, it is the middle to end of November, so it is time to get my tulip in the ground. For anyone that doesn't know, my name is Peggy and I am growing a cut flower garden here on my allotment in Kanagawa Prefecture, Japan, which is just south of Tokyo in USDA Zone 9B. Thanks for checking out my channel. Okay, you can see behind me that I have just finished digging up and dividing my Dahlia tuber, which was mildly terrifying. But I haven't put them in the ground yet, and the reason I've not done that is because this year I want to be putting my tulips in between my rows of Dahlia. So these are going to come up and be done by the end of spring, and then my Dahlia will start to come up, is my plan. And because I'm in zone 9B, I don't actually have to dig up my Dahlia again unless I don't like the flowers and I want to get rid of them, or I want to divide them, which is what I just did. And I am not going to be digging up my tulip bulbs. Now, if you watch actual flower farmers with their tulips, they grow these as annuals because when they are harvesting them, they pull out the whole bulb and cut it as low down as possible to give them the longest stem length they can. But when you're cutting the leaves off of the tulip like that, it means that they don't have any way to photosynthesize and replenish the bulb, and so they don't come back next year. That's it, they're one and done. But I am not going to do that because I'm not selling my tulips and I don't mind them being slightly shorter. Also, in Japan, tulips are really expensive to buy for the bulbs, and I would like them to multiply and give me more tulips every year going forward. I will stop here and say that I always thought that tulips were quite plain and kind of boring, and that's because living in Scotland for most of my life, nearly all the tulips we got were coming over from Holland, from Amsterdam, and they are just kind of the generic tulips that you see. Then when I started to grow my own flowers, I realized there were so many different types, and I discovered ones that I really loved, like these dark ones with the beautiful almost peony heads, the doubles. This year I've got some other beautiful colors that are kind of the same in these peony ones, and I thought, God, these are beautiful. I really love them. But as I move further into my flower growing journey, I'm quite shocked to find how bad these are, and so bad that a lot of flower farmers are stopping growing them. One, like I say, for a flower farmer, when they're pulling these up and cutting them, they can't reuse the bulb, and therefore it's really labor intensive. You've got to plant these every year and then go through and harvest them every year and then do it all over again. But also it's quite expensive. If you're only using a bulb once, it's a really expensive thing to do, and so the profit margin on growing tulips for profit isn't that great, so I'm led to believe. But more than that, there is a disease called tulip fire that is really affecting all of the big commercial growing houses that are actually growing the bulbs, and the way that they are treating that is with some pretty powerful fungicides to try and get rid of it. Tulip fire is a fungus. Now, if you get tulip fire, it will just wipe out your bulbs. You're not going to get any, and so a lot of people have been investing in very expensive bulbs for only one harvest and then getting tulip fire, and it's taking them all out, and it's a huge loss. I think most flower growers are kind of smaller scale. Most of your local flower growers are small scale, and so to lose an entire crop like that is pretty crippling. But also, the fungicide stays in your soil. It's not just when you pull the bulb that's it out. It does actually affect your soil health, and for someone like me who's not using any fungicides or chemicals or pesticides or anything on the garden, you don't really want to be putting that stuff in. Now, I've heard that some of these bulbs are so badly contaminated that when people are planting them, they're actually wearing gloves to do it because they don't want the chemicals to be coming off on their skin. And you kind of think, wow, that's a lot of chemicals. When you think, a tulip, it's a natural flower. So a lot of people are now turning against tulips and not wanting to grow them. And it has worried me a little bit because these are import tulips. Now, when I'm buying the fancier ones, they're imported. These are sold by a company in Nagaba, but I don't think they're actually grown there. Now, Niigata, where my husband's from, is famous for its tulips, and they grow a lot of tulips, but they're not the fancy ones like this. They are the kind of plainer ones. So I'm guessing all of these are actually imported and therefore are probably drenched in fungicide, which makes me a bit nervous. So if I was a flower farmer, would I be growing tulip for selling? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if morally I could do that. It doesn't really sit well with me. I've bought the tulips now, so I'm going to put them in, and I'm not going to be pulling them up. But I think this might be the last year that I actually buy new bulbs and put them in my garden for that reason. But let's look at what I am going to be putting in. Okay, so last year I didn't know if I was going to be on my allotment or not, so I had to grow all of my spring flowers in my garden at home, which is absolutely terrible. The growing conditions are terrible, the light is terrible, the soil is terrible. But I did get some really, really nice tulips, and I'll put some pictures up of what I made with my tulips at the end of this video. So if you want to see what I was doing with them, I'll give you a glimpse. I was really disappointed though. Right after the tulips had flowered, we got rainy season, and then after rainy season it gets hot really, really quickly. And I was waiting for the leaves to die back so that I could dig up the bulbs. And when I did finally dig up the bulbs, I found that nearly all of them had rotted. And I was really upset by that. And then the ones that I dug up after that, a significant proportion of them also then rotted later in my storage. And I guess it's just the weather conditions weren't great for them. So although I have got some that I dug up, it's nowhere near the number that I planted, and I've got no idea what they actually are. I had quite a few varieties, and they're all mixed up, so I don't know what they are. So these are going to be going in a random row of let's see if they grow and let's see what comes. But because I didn't have very many of these left, I did have to go out and buy myself some new tulips. So the first ones I went out and bought myself were more of these. I had these last year and I absolutely loved them. They were so, so beautiful, and I had a cornflower blooming at the same time that was exactly the same colour. Now I'm not putting in cornflower, although I'm starting to think I might put some in my garden just because they went so well with these. But I loved them, absolutely loved them. Love them. So I got 2 packs of these. Now this is trans, so you don't get very many bulbs. I've got 5 in one pack and 3 in the other, but it's better than nothing. So I've got these beautiful black ones in again. The other ones I grew last year that I really liked were this kind of light pink one. Now I don't particularly like pink, especially not baby pink, but when these came up I thought they looked almost like water lily flowers. They were so beautiful and they open up so big. So I went and I got some more of those too. To match those, I then just bought whatever I could find in kind of corresponding colours, and they're all this kind of nice peony one. I really like the peony, big open ruffly one. So again, not really my cup of tea, but I'm hoping that these peach ones might go with some of the peach stock that I have growing. And I also have some lupin. I'm not sure if they'll be up in time though, but they might go with my stock if I can get my stock coming on at the same time. So, you know, we're going to have a very pink spring. And I said, oh, and then I also got these beautiful lilac ones as well. I really like that colour. But again, only 4 bulbs, not a lot in these. And then I said, that's it, these bulbs are really expensive, I'm not going to buy any more. And I walked into a little shop and found these, which kind of look like mini cabbage type things. They're not the prettiest at all, but they are called a Peggy Wonder. And when someone puts your name on a flower, you've got to buy it. I know it's not spelled right, but my name's Gaelic. You're not going to get a tulip grown in Gaelic. So anyway, Peggy Wonder, had to get it. This one's going in. It's a really weird looking tulip though. Okay, so you can see I have dug up my Dahlia tuber, but because I am in zone 9B, I can put those straight back into the ground. I don't need to store them over winter or anything. We're not going to get a frost that's going to kill these off. I say that very confidently. If we now get a frost that kills off all my Dahlia, I'm going to look really stupid. So I am putting 2 Dahlia tuber in per row that I have, and then I'm going to put my tulip in between those. So I've got my black ones together, my pink ones together. These are the kind of peachy ones, my Peggies and my purples together, and then I have 2 rows of random bulbs in at the end here. So when people that are growing these commercially, flower farmers put these in the ground, they put them in really close together. They literally say put them in, I'll show you here, like you were putting eggs in a carton, and they will grow them like this, if not closer. And the reason they can do that is because they're only staying in for a year. They don't want the bulbs to grow any bigger. Tulips don't put out a massive amount of foliage. So for them, this is the most economical way to plant their tulips. But for me, as I said, I'm going to be leaving these in the ground, and I would like them to multiply and get bigger. So I am going to be leaving bigger gaps between my tulips. They're still pretty close together, but it's enough for them to spread out and not be squished in when the bulbs divide and hopefully give me lots more next year and don't just rot away this time. So this is what I have ended up with. And all my wee random ones at the end there. So let's get them dug in. And I'm done. And with that, all the bulbs are in my garden. I now have my freesia, my anemone, daffodils, my dahlia, my tulip, ranunculus, gladiola. I've got my poppy planted in. I've got some ponytails. I've got some Daucus dara. And I have some allium all in. So the only thing that I still have to direct sow into this garden is my sweet pea, which is what I'm going to do next. But first I need to do a tidy up to make room for them. And I have lots of my seeds started off at home, but it feels nice. And it's so strange to see the difference between this year and last year when I didn't know if I was going to have the allotment, so everything was just starting to die back and I had clear mud. And it's really nice that it's November and you can already see the spring flowers coming through. Obviously on a lovely day like this, it feels even nicer. Don't be fooled, it has been very cold this week. I don't know where this has come from. But we're almost there and the garden hopefully will give me a lot of spring flowers, because I learned that in zone 9B, although we have the perks of a mild winter, we also have a really, really hot summer. And so when everyone else is in the full swing of their summer flowers and getting beautiful dahlia and huge zinnia, I'm not. My dahlia went dormant, my cosmos got burnt to a crisp, my zinnia slowed down as well. So really for me, I've got to focus on my spring and my autumn flowers because it's just too hot in the summertime. And these are just the things I'm learning every year. And it's fun to see what grows in your climate and how that's different from other places. You know, I was watching videos on Instagram of people putting up their Christmas wreaths in the snow already, which is insane. Because it's November. Stop decorating in November, guys. It's not Christmas yet. But yeah, to think that there are some people that are already 2 foot deep in snow and I'm out here in a vest top doing my garden. There are perks, but it comes with the fact that my summer flowers are just a no-go. It's too hot and nothing, even drought-tolerant plants can't put up with weeks and weeks of 40-degree heat and no rain. So I'm really concentrating on my spring flowers this year. It's getting windy. On my spring flowers this year and hoping that that can be enough to sustain me through to have lots of beautiful flowers in the spring to play with. I'm just kind of rambling now. If you followed along this far, thank you very much. If you want to see what I do with my flowers, I'll put up some pictures at the end of this of my tulips from last year, but you can check out everything I do on my Instagram page, which is From the Witch's Garden, and there's a link to that below. If you want to see how these do in the spring, then remember to hit the subscribe button, and I will see you guys next week. Bye!